The Ranger student must make the grade in the eyes of his fellow students. This test comes in the form of a peer evaluation survey, ranking each student in the group, with the bottom 10% being cut at the end of each phase. This becomes a lottery, with the pool growing smaller as time goes on, a reality that keeps the Ranger student constantly on edge. Do they cut the bottom? I thought it was like if somebody gets ranked the bottom a bunch of times in a row, they get rid of them. I didn't know they just lopped off the bottom 10%.
Well, as I recall it, yeah, it was the bottom out of 10. The 10th guy would get he would either get a mark against him or he'd get moved to another platoon. And but again, it's stacking up against you, and everybody's accumulating different demerits or marks against them, and that's just another one, and that gets you moved out of your squad and can really set you back. So it's tough. And the other, of course, tough part about it, that is, in the first couple phases, I mean, you're getting rid of the guys that need to go, the dirtbags. So everybody that's left is pretty competent. And so now you got to go through the competent guys and cut the bottom. And, you know, but people aren't dumb. And so you start to rig things mathematically, and they take the best guy, rank him 10th. And so anyway, there's some things you can work around, but it's a lot of pressure, and you don't know. And it's you got to build coalitions, and it's an interesting dynamic to it. Peer evals are. Yeah.
From guys that I've talked to, basically they say like you're a good guy, I'm a good guy. Okay, rank me last this time.
That's right.
We'll rank you next last time. Echo will and so that way none of us are getting cut.
Right.
But if we actually don't like someone, and they're a dirtbag, we can just put them at the bottom and they're gone.
Yeah,
which is pretty. I think that's great.
Yeah.
This how much weight did you lose going through Ranger School?
I lost. I mean, I didn't have a whole lot to lose going in, so I lost a good 20-some pounds. Yeah.
And what did you think of Ranger School compared to now? You've been through all these other courses. You know, you spent 4 years at the Citadel. You did 9 months of that plebe or knob situation.
Yeah.
You must be pretty freaking tough to annoy at this point. You pretty much take anything.
Yeah, I mean, good thing I was so young. I didn't know any better. You know, I kind of thought that's just what life was. So now that I know that's not the case, I'm not sure it'd been so easy. But actually, Ranger School was really a good culmination because I could put a lot of the mental challenges from the Citadel together with a lot of the physical challenges from infantry school. And, you know, again, it's at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they just give you a change to the mission, and you got to figure things out and get people moving, and everybody's asleep. That's when you got to really reach down, as you know, and motivate yourself and then motivate everybody else. And so it was a good almost culminating event to be able to put those skills together. So, because again, it's very physical and very mental all at the same time. Ranger School is.
Any major challenges while you were there? Did you make it through in one shot?
I did make it through in one shot, which is really fortunate, and most people don't. But that's not bragging, because I got dinged up along the way with quite a few demerits, and got saved a couple times by people. And so I think my strength was that I did well on patrols, and so you know, and I also learned kind of that ethos too. The more you help other people, the more you help yourself, you know, and that's a good thing. So I was in tune to that. So I did make it through, but I got quite a few demerits and write-ups, and so it was stress.
Now, you end up getting orders to the 2nd Infantry Division in South Korea.
Yeah, and just to kind of go back to one of the other points, the Army had told me, so I wanted to go to the lightest infantry unit that I could go to. Well, where does the Army want to send me? To a Lance Missile Battalion, which is like going to NASA. And I wasn't having any of that. So I used the Citadel network. I found a Citadel colonel. I said, hey, man, I want to go to a place with light infantry. And he said, we got this slot in Korea. So I took that. So that was the first learning. You know, I'd learned my lesson there and set the conditions and told the Army where I was going to go. So that was good.
You were able to make that happen. You arrive in Korea. It's 1990. And that's kind of a good place to go at this time frame. You know, being on the DMZ is as good as it's going to get in 1990.
At that time, at that month, it was the hottest place to go, you know, and to face off with the North Korean Army, because there was no wars going on at that time.
Of course, by August of 1990, you know, in the book here, you talk about it, Saddam Hussein invades Kuwait. Now, you end up securing a spot in the 82nd Airborne, because you were maneuvering. You seem to be doing some maneuvering to try to get to go to war.
Yeah, definitely. The Army came down and said, nobody's leaving Korea. You know, you're going to stay stabilized there because of mission. But I wasn't having any of that. So as the Army was deploying off to Desert Storm, I was working the system. And again, I wasn't going to let anybody down. I was going to make sure that there was because I knew the Army would say one thing and then there was reality underneath. And in reality, they had more guys coming. My replacement was coming. And so why should me and my replacement both sit there? And so I was staying very in tune on that. I was up at 2 o'clock in the morning, calling back to D.C. and worked it so I got my way all the way down to a unit that was already deployed in Desert Storm. And then the Lord had other plans for me.
Yeah, the other plans was that you had screened for or applied to be to go to the Ranger Regiment.
That's right.
And sort of at the same time, you get both sets of orders offered to you. And you go in the book here, would I take the orders I had in hand to go to war with the 82nd Airborne or follow my original dream and join a Ranger Battalion? Convinced none of this was happening by chance and bolstered by my belief that there could not be a war without the Rangers, the Army's spearhead combat unit, I accepted the assignment to join 3rd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment. So your thought was, well, 82nd Airborne is, they're already there, but if I'm going to Ranger Battalion, of course I'm going to war.
That's right.
And you were wrong.
I was wrong. Yeah.
The war was over a little too quick for that.
And 3rd Battalion had been lined up for a special operation to secure the U.S. Embassy and some hostages. And when Saddam Hussein let those people go, then 3rd Battalion came off that hook, but their other battalions were already lined up to go, and so we did not go.
Fast forward a little bit in the book. You say, we spent the next few months watching the returning soldiers of the regular army strut around Fort Benning, brashly pointing at their combat laurels and asking us, where were you? We knew this was a one-off for the regular army and that at some point that the 9/11 call would come in again and the fire bell would ring for us. Meanwhile, the Rangers returned to cycle of week in, week out training like we were going to the Super Bowl. So that had to sting.
Oh, that stung bad. It still stings. It still stings. But I had a great story though. And St. Patrick's Day, Savannah, Georgia. It's a huge event. The population of the city doubles. And 1st Ranger Battalion's in Savannah, so I was in 3rd. So I went down there to watch the parade. And 1st Ranger Battalion always has a company march in the parade. Well, in that parade, all the Desert Storm guys were there, and they literally were running around and had their hats on sideways, and I mean, really kind of clowning it up, but just jubilant that they were home. So good on them. But then after the clown show kind of passes by, the crowd just hushed, and you could hear marching. And here comes a company from 1st Battalion with bayonets marching by. I mean, just looking fantastic. And somebody in the crowd said, "Here come the real fighters." And so that kind of pumped me back up a little bit again too. It was really cool to hear that.
Now, before you got here today, I was telling Echo Charles that the life of a Ranger, the day-to-day life of a Ranger, is about as Spartan as you can find in the U.S. military. Talk to us a little bit. So you're now at Ranger Battalion. What's that like? What's day-to-day life like?
Yeah, for the whole battalion, for the whole unit, it's 100% focused on the mission. I mean, getting ready for training, but that training is focused on being ready to go. You're on an 18-hour notice, that's a rotation, kind of like firemen in a firehouse waiting for the bell to ring. So the battalions rotate that responsibility, but they have a responsibility to be able to respond in 18 hours. So that's really an incredible timeline to have to meet. When I say respond, that means in an aircraft, wheels up, going downrange to a mission. And so you literally have to be like 30 minutes response to get to your unit and get your stuff and go. And that rotates. But that's a big part of your life. And so you really have to be 100% dedicated to it. There's no, I don't feel good today. There's no, hey, my kid's birthday is today, so I can't come. There's none of that. Mm-hmm. And the Ranger Battalion has to be like, the rest of the Army is not like that.
No. The rest of the military is not like that.
That's right. So
that's why most Rangers don't stay in for a long period of time. And when you meet a guy that's been in I've met guys that were in Rangers for 22 years and they're just like hard. They're a different type of human right there because they've been living the same way like a Spartan for 20 years.
Oh, yeah. And that's a great point because, I'll meet somebody that say, well, I did 4 years in the Army or 4 years in the Air Force. I'm like, good on you, but, that's not that, huge a thing. But if I meet somebody that said they were in battalion, I don't care if they were in there for 3 years or 30 years. I mean, you were in battalion, and so that's a different lifestyle. And I would say, again, I was a lieutenant. So, I had to meet all those standards, and I had to conform to that. But again, I was treated more of like a gentleman, we would say. But the privates, the young guys that are there, it's just like the guys at the Citadel, except they are getting smoked physically round the clock, and they've got to be completely dedicated to it. So you're right, 100%. It's probably the most Spartan lifestyle. And that goes on for them similarly for like a year until they go to Ranger school. And when they graduate Ranger school and come back with a tab, then they start getting treated more like a human. But it was a year of that for those guys. My hat is off to young guys raised in battalion.
Yeah, no doubt. And then I'm going to fast forward a little bit. In 1992, Colonel Dave Grange Jr. took over as the commander of the 75th Ranger Regiment, and a fast-paced training cycle became even more intense. Colonel Grange was the son of one of the Army's legendary generals. Colonel Grange's father, Lieutenant General Dave Grange Sr., was an infantry officer and 3-war U.S. Army veteran who cast a long shadow. His son, Dave Grange Jr., was intensely competitive and strove to equal, if not outdo, his father's legacy. By 1992, he was well on his way, having served as a recon platoon leader with the 82nd Airborne in Vietnam, then becoming a Special Forces officer, and later an Army helicopter pilot. Dave Grange Jr. had a career path not even possible in today's Army, one that represents quite an accomplishment. As a captain, Dave Grange Jr. commanded the company from the 1st Ranger Battalion that had gone into Iran in 1980 as part of Operation Eagle Claw. He next tried out for the Army's elite and secretive Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta and was selected to serve as one of its senior officers. An experienced veteran, Ironman triathlete, and inspiring leader, there were few men who could equal Colonel Grange's reputation or drive. As the 75th Ranger Regiment commander, Colonel Grange made it clear that chief among his priorities was to get the Ranger battalions into action and take on America's enemies. So he just comes in, steps it up even more.
It was incredible.